Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can visit our website at holybatcast.com and find us all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. And if you're a big fan of the show, you can also support us on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, got to give a big old thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. Hope you all know how much you mean to me and how important it is and how sweet it is that you support the show. So thank you guys. You're awesome. Again, if you want to be a part of the Patreon family, no pressure. But if you do, that's patreon.com/holybatcast. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm your Bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can find me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, all those places at Andy DiGenova. This episode is going to be something a little different, a little unique, but I hope rewarding and interesting. We're going to talk about Batman in a more, I don't know if academic's the right word, but in a larger sense. Not just talking about a movie or a TV show or a cartoon, but talking about how Batman can impact and improve our lives. The stories and lessons that we learn from Batman can help us not just with entertainment, but also to help us out with our own mental health. I know it's a little different, but go with us on this ride. It'll be fun. It'll be rewarding. I promise. And so I have a special guest joining me to talk about all that. He has been a longtime listener of the show. He is a patron, but if my memory serves me, which is questionable, I think his name is Rob. Rob's wife got him Patreon as a gift. Rob, am I remembering this right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Gosh, thank you so much for having me, Andy. It's truly an honor to be on your podcast. As you said, my name is Rob Orf. I'm a licensed psychologist, and my pronouns are he, him. Yes, my wife Laura did gift me the Patreon when my senior passed away. I was trying to do it my own way, and she very kindly got me the Patreon as a gift in his memory. So shout out to my wife Laura. I'm so blessed to have you as a partner in life. Thank you so much, my love.
Oh, I love it. Yes, she was awesome. I loved corresponding with her while we got things worked out. So sounds like you have an awesome partner in life, which is so important. And normally when there's like a new patron, it's like, oh, do you want to come on and review an animated movie? Or do you want to come on and talk about a trailer? Or you want to talk about a comic book or whatever? But because of your unique skill set and your background and what you do, it actually kind of was an interesting opportunity because the idea for this episode actually came from another listener. So I got to give him a shout out. And he just goes by Nick P. So Nick, if you're out there listening, this one's for you. Nick reached out and he's like, he basically pitched the idea of going, hey, Batman, like you guys already talk about mental health and stuff like that on the show in passing or in emails. How cool would it be to talk about it in conjunction with Batman? And then it was right around that same time that you and I connected, Rob. And I was like, well, look at that. How serendipitous. And so I sent that pitch to you and you're like, yeah, actually, I think that's an interesting topic. So thanks for being willing to do this with me, Rob.
Perfect. Meant to be.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, yes, thank you to Laura. Thank you to you, Rob. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. If I could, Andy, I would also want to give a shout out to my loving family, my supportive friends, and the incredible team I work with at our counseling practice. I did want to say, Andy, I've been listening to your podcast since the single digit episode days, when at the time my grandmother was in the active stages of dying, and I was listening to your episodes on some very long car rides. As I mentioned to you before, it's very much a surreal experience being on your podcast after having listened for so long. You feel like someone I have known for years, which I think truly speaks to the power and importance of the work you do with this podcast. You, Jamie, Brendan, each and every one of your guests build a sense of community and belonging, which can truly mean the world to your listeners, especially if they might be going through a difficult time in their life, as we all do as human beings. So as a longtime listener, I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude for the time, work, and love you give with Holy BatCast.
Well, thanks. That means a lot to me, and I hope that's what we do. It's nice to hear that we sometimes succeed, but I mean, gosh, the single digits, we're coming up on 10 years.
Mm.
So yeah, you've been listening to me yammer on for 10 years. um, but no, that really does mean a lot to me. And it always is very humbling and very sweet. And it actually means just so much when I hear things like that, or when I get messages like that from people who, yeah, like you said, we all go through hard times. We have rough patches. And if this show or one of the other shows I do can provide some comfort or some distraction or some entertainment, or just to make people remember that they're not alone, then God, that's more than I even hoped for when I started the show. And I started it to talk about Batman and to nerd out, to have an outlet to nerd out about stuff I love, and then to build the community, make connections that I have, and then hear that it means something to other people that I've never met before. It really means a lot to me. So I hope I do my part into putting a little bit of light out there into the world. And so thank you for saying that. That really does mean a lot.
Of course, and you certainly do your part, and you make a tremendous impact in the lives of the people who listen to you, me
No,
being one of them.
thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about all that fun stuff. I'm going to make a weird segue because before we get into the bulk of the episode, I, of course, have to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Manscaped. So cheers to the new year. It is still just well, I guess we're a week and a half into January, but it's the new year, and Manscaped wants to wish you a new year and remind you that just because your resolutions are happening, it doesn't mean you can't be well kept or this can't be part of those resolutions. So 2024 is a time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. So Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 is every man's cheat code to looking good, feeling good, and turning the page on confidence this year. So whether you're looking to maintain a trim or go for that clean shaven look, the trimmer has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com, use the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. So again, thank you to everybody who's already gone to Manscaped. I have heard nothing but good things from all of you who've already done it, and it means a lot. They have a lot of great stuff. So whatever your New Year's resolution is, you can always treat yourself. Treat yourself, buy yourself something nice that actually is handy that you can use day to day. And Manscaped's products are the best you can get. So go to manscaped.com, check out the lawnmower if you're just looking for the basic trimmer. The handyman is the face shaver. I swear by that now, thank God. They have the deodorant and the boxer briefs and everything that you need for grooming, the nail trimming kit, which I also am a big fan of. I know Jamie is too. But they have lots of great stuff. Everybody who has purchased from them has been happy with their purchases. So if you are going to make a purchase, just all I ask is you use that promo code BATSCAPED, get 20% off. You get to save a little bit of money, and then you're also helping out the podcast in the process. So go to manscaped.com, use Batscaped for your 20% off and free shipping, and get yourself something nice because you're worth it. It's another way to help your mental health, though, is if you feel better about yourself, you feel better in general. So do that. Take some time to treat yourself with some Manscaped products, and I think you'll be happy. Now let's get to the topic at hand, Rob. Before we get into the bulk of stuff, it's your first time on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
that's tradition. I want to hear about your Batman fandom, and also what is your favorite Batman movie and why.
Awesome. I've heard you ask this question so many times, and each time you've asked it, I've gone through in my mind at the time what would my answer be currently. Um, so I've had time to prepare. So I think, like many of us Batman fans of a certain age, for me, my entrance into the world of Batman, it's hard to say. It's felt like it happened at the same time, both Batman 1989 and Batman the Animated Series, and it's hard
Mm.
for me to remember what came first. But I had a Batman '89 VHS that I would play over and over and over again as a kid, fast forwarding through the parts where Batman wasn't in it. Uh, but watch that. But I also had the old VHS tapes for Batman the Animated Series with Joker on the cover and Robin on the cover.
Oh man, I had all those. I loved them.
I always look for them at thrift stores. I would want to have them all back
Yeah,
again.
in hindsight, I should have kept them. You're right. I think
And don't
I must have got rid of them when it was released on DVD. But you're right. Now looking back, I just want the covers for my shelf.
Well, as you are ambassador for eBay, they are available on eBay.
Oh my
Well,
god! Of course
for
they
a reasonable sum.
are. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my back pocket for the next time we do a wish list episode because I don't know if you saw, but my wish list episode turned out to be very profitable for me this year.
Yes, and profitable for eBay because I also bought some things that you suggested.
Yes, I love it.
But my favorite Batman movie, perhaps not the most popular opinion, but and it's changed over time. But I would say yes, Dark Knight is the best one. The objectively best one is Dark Knight, in my opinion. But my favorite one, I would say, Batman Returns.
Hmm.
I just love. Well, it has my favorite Batmobile in it, so toss up between '89 and Batman Returns. But I love Danny DeVito's Penguin, and I love the themes of power and it's just really interesting. I just love the images. I do agree that Gotham is not as well developed as in Batman '89, but I just find it's a really fun movie, and I think there's a lot of really relevant themes in it that I relate to.
Well, I love the answer because I love that movie, and it's nice to hear that it's someone's favorite. I mean, there's a few people out there who it's their favorite, so don't worry. It's not. When you said unpopular opinion, I was like, "Oh, where are we going with this?" But Batman Returns, that's great. Um, I failed to watch it this Christmas, so I feel really embarrassed about that, but it happens. Um, but you said you like the themes of power, and Rob, you can never have too much power. If my
Right,
life has a meaning, that's the meaning.
that's the meaning. And how ironic that it was power that ended his reign.
It's one of my favorite things about that movie is that he's got that amazing line, "One can never have too much power." And how does
Mm,
he die? Too much
too
power.
much power,
Too much
right?
power. It's the best. Very cool. All right, great answer. And then obviously a lifelong Batman fan, like so much of us. And you mentioned you're a psychologist, so give us a little background on that before we bring the two worlds together.
Awesome. So I did want to mention to start off, you have a really excellent. I've always admired your excellent disclaimer that you have at the end of your podcast regarding how the thoughts and opinions expressed do not reflect the companies or organizations they happen to work with. I know it by heart because I listen. So I've been listening for so long. But I just wanted to do a quick disclaimer for myself, given that I'm a psychologist. Just want to note that what we're talking about today, it's not therapy. This cannot replace any relationship with any of your listeners might have with a therapist. While I am a therapist, I'm not the therapist of those who might be listening. I'm simply here to share my understanding of both the research and Batman and how Batman and superheroes might relate to working on mental health and wellness. So I just wanted to throw that out there quickly.
I trust me, I get it, and I think that's totally fair, but I think there's so much power in just having the open conversation, you
Mhm.
know, and that can benefit so many people just because, again, kind of go back to the original point we talked about a few minutes ago of like so many people feel like they're alone, like things that they're going through, they're the only ones who have ever been through it, and they feel alone. And when you actually can talk about it and bring things out into the light, you realize you're not the first one who's dealt with this. You're not the only one who's ever felt this way, and there is help out there. So I of course, this is not actual therapy, but hopefully it does give people some food for thought that can allow them to, put to use in their day to day life.
Exactly. Well said, Andy. What you said reminds me of the saying, the old saying in mental health: when things become mentionable, they become manageable. And
Mm,
you saying that shining light on it. So hopefully today in our time together, we can shine the bat signal directly on some of these things to help people begin to think about it in different ways or work on it in different ways that speak to who they are as Batman fans.
absolutely. I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Excellent. Fantastic. So, you asked about me being a psychologist. So, I've been a licensed psychologist since 2015. Um, I am the director of a counseling organization. I am so passionate about coming to know people and their stories, um, and help them make systematic change in whatever goals they might have, helping them live healthier and happier lives that are better meant for them than how they might be living currently. So it's certainly a passion of mine. It's my career passion, and Batman, comic books, superheroes, that's my avocation. And I find that often they go hand in hand in perhaps unexpected ways. One of the things I often think about with my role as a psychologist is the role of translator. How can I convey to clients I work with psychological concepts or my understanding of different research? How can I explain it to them in the way that they can truly understand and truly get at a deep level? And I find that for many of the people I work with, especially younger populations I work with, but also people, older populations as well, that they often speak the same language of geek that I do. And I say that in an affectionate way. I'm a proud geek. But many of the people I work with, but for some of them, it might be their metaphor is sports. They're really passionate about sports. Okay, let's talk about behavioral activation from talking about football. Um, but for many of them, it is about superheroes. In my office, um, I consciously have many items, comic books. I have the '89 Batman Batmobile here. I have the Superpowers Batmobile, and it's a conscious choice because I think often a lot of suffering comes from people feeling pressure to live lives that are not meant for them. Feeling that they have to be a certain way, or they, you know, as a psychologist, I can't have Batman out, I can't have comic books out. What I'm trying to convey, my meta message I'm hoping people gather, is it's okay to be who you are. And I'm both a psychologist and I'm a Batman fan. So I think that idea is why I was hoping to talk with you and your listeners about today. How can we use Batman as a tool to work on what our individual goals might be?
Yeah, and I think that's such a cool and unique approach to it. And I've advocated for therapy on this show before because I didn't do it until 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and it literally changed my life. And it's the things we're talking about is it forces you to talk about things that you keep bottled up, and the more you talk about them and then have someone who's insightful to help you work through them, you learn so much about yourself and then how to manage those things. But to your point, like you've got to put it in a context that makes sense. And using Batman as a way to do that, I think is so creative. And I think it could be really helpful, especially to people who listen to a Batman podcast every week. Because this is the language we all speak, is this the superhero nerd language. And again, that's all with affection.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, like, we love Batman, right? And we love Batman because he's cool, and we love the movies, and we love the gadgets, and we love the bad guys and the adventure, and all that stuff is great. We love all that stuff, but it's also fun to dig a little bit deeper into who Batman is
Mm.
and what else about his story and his struggle and his fight really resonates with so many people for now 80 plus years. And it's not just that he looks cool. There's just so much more meat on that bone. And I love the opportunity to be able to dig into that, especially today with you through the context of what does Batman go through and what can we learn to make our lives maybe just a little bit better.
That's awesome. That actually gets right at one of the things I was hoping we might think about and talk about today, which is this idea of the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe perhaps we might start by I invite you, Andy, to think about what your favorite Batman story from any media might be. Just don't tell me what it is yet. But it could be from animation or live action movies, comic books. What in your mind is your favorite Batman story? and let me know when you have one in mind.
Okay, I've got one in mind. I
Got
don't
one
know
in
if it's
mind?
my absolute favorite, but it's the one that jumped to mind. So we're gonna go with it.
Awesome. And hopefully your listeners have had time to think about what their favorite might be. So before you tell me yours, Andy, I'm I'm not a mind reader. Sometimes psychologists and mind readers get confused. We're not the same. So I don't know what your story you're thinking about is about, but I can tell you some truths about the story that you picked. What I can tell you is the story that you picked did not go. There once was Batman. He faced no challenges. He hung out in the Batcave. The end. It was likely.
Correct. You
Yeah, am
nailed
I
it.
right?
You're right. That
There we
certainly
go.
doesn't happen.
Yes, maybe I am a mind reader. But probably it was, and I want to hear what your story was. But probably what the story was here was Batman. He was faced with challenges he didn't expect. He was pushed in ways that challenged him. He went through loss or grieving or times of doubt or times of questioning, is he capable? And through that struggle, he learned and grew, and eventually, working probably smarter, not harder, he figured out how to overcome whatever villain or challenge he was going through, and learned and grew as a result. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. What was
absolutely.
what was the story that you were thinking of?
So the one that jumped to my mind was Batman Begins,
Mm,
because it's such a journey in Bruce Wayne's life. You know, we get child Bruce all the way up to fully formed Batman and everything in between. So I picked that. But even as you were talking and talking about the elements that make a great Batman story, or that are in pretty much every Batman story. I cheated a little, and I was like, well, what if I picked Batman '89? Oh yeah, that still kind of works. What if I picked The
mhm.
Dark Knight? Yeah, that kind of works. What if I picked the Batman from 2 years ago? Yeah, that still kind of works. So yes, I think you've nailed it there.
Exactly, and you nailed it too. What's interesting is there have been so many Batman movies at this point in time, and live action and animation. Why wasn't the story I first described? Why hasn't that been filmed yet? That there was, here's Batman. He faced no challenges. He hung out in the Batcave. The end. Why hasn't that been filmed yet?
Because nobody wants to watch that. It's boring.
It's boring. And why is it boring? Do you think?
Because nothing happens.
Because nothing happens. Nothing happens, and we as human beings can't relate to a story like that because that's not what our experience is. As human beings, we all, like Batman, go through times of suffering and loss. We go through times of grieving, and this impacts us in different ways. Old saying I think about often is be kind because everyone's going through a internal struggle that we
Mm-hmm.
know nothing
Mm-hmm.
about. And Batman exemplifies this. So the reason that we're attracted to these stories of Batman overcoming challenges is because we've been challenged in life. These stories of Batman are like our bat signal of how can we get through these times ourselves. And challenges bring opportunity for growth. Batman is going to grow more as a hero and a character going against the Joker or Ra's al Ghul, um, than he is just being in the Batcave and looking at old records.
Yeah. And
Um,
what's so interesting as you're saying this, and I don't want to get us off course, but you talk about like the Batman stories that we all love. They are stories where Batman is challenged and he has obstacles and he, like you said, he mourns loss and he learns and he falls down and he picks himself back up. Batman Begins. That's why we fall.
mhm.
And
Mm,
these are the Batman stories we love. They're the Batman stories that, we watch over and over again. And yet, as people, as human beings, these are the stories we love watching. And yet, I think that so many of us have this illusion that our lives should be the first story you mentioned, which is, oh, you hang out and everything's fine. And we all wish our
mm,
life could be that,
mhm,
even though those aren't the stories we like or gravitate to,
mhm,
because they're boring and nothing happens and you don't grow. And so I think that just as you're talking, I'm like, God, what a great reminder when we are going through tough things or an ordeal or something that feels insurmountable or you feel a little lost. And you remember the stories that resonate with you and how those heroes, those characters got through that, and remind ourselves, we're really just doing the same thing. It's just in real life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And when you're going through those challenges, and speaking as a human being myself, when you're going through those challenges, for lack of a better word, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's painful and it's hard. And as you're saying, it's helpful to remind ourselves that this is a reality of going through the world as a human being as we go through those challenging times. And it can be a really good question to ask yourself, how do I want to learn and grow from this? Or this
Hmm.
pain that I'm experiencing now, how might I use it to get to a place that's better meant for me? Or to how can I use this to heal or to grow? Or to be Batman. One thing I often encourage people to think about is owning that we all can can be and are superheroes. Think of, I invite you and your listeners, think of all that you've overcome at this point in your life. You have lived through all your worst days so far. And just as Batman is, you're a survivor. As Batman said, I have one superpower, and that's that I never give up.
Hmm.
And that's how we learn and grow.
Oh, and just to bring it back to something very recent, I don't know if you even got a chance to see Aquaman 2, but one of my favorite moments in that film is Arthur's father saying exactly the same thing: is sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with that part, I thought of Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
pun intended on the Aquaman, but
No, it's, I mean,
it's
and same thing, like, I don't know if you listen to Disorder, but Meet the Robinsons, I think, is an underrated gem from the Disney catalog. But that, that motto is keep moving forward.
mhm,
And if all else fails, just remember, keep moving forward.
exactly one step at a time. It reminds me of a quote by Martin Luther King that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl, as long as you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Mhm. Now, this actually segues to another thing I was thinking about, um, which is the idea of externalizing the problem. So we were talking before about how we all go through challenges as human beings, and when you're in it, and it
Hmm.
sucks.
Hmm.
And what can we do? And I think sometimes it can be helpful to think about the challenge in a different way. We in the field of mental health love our fancy terms. Our term for this is cognitive restructuring, which is basically learning to think about things in a different way. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Hmm.
So, externalizing the problem um, is kind of the idea of thinking about the challenges you face as foils or villains, and then how can you respond as a hero would. So, think going back to Batman um, and thinking, how would Batman respond, or how would he respond in a way that aligns with his values and goals? Um, Maybe we might start with a common presenting challenge that someone might have, which might be anxiety. When you think of anxiety, what Batman villain comes to mind? Anxiety or fear?
Scarecrow.
Right, that's right. The obvious answer. I think of this all the time. My favorite Scarecrow story is the Nothing to Fear episode,
Oh, yeah, it's a great one.
where I believe that's Batman's first time going up against Scarecrow in the animated series, if I'm
That
correct.
sounds right, if my memory
Um,
serves.
but it's the one with the famous line, "I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman."
Yes.
But but Scarecrow, like any villain, he has his master plan, right? So whether it be spreading fear toxin around the city or whatever he's up to, he has a plan. The same is true with anxiety. So anxiety has a cycle. So anxiety's trick, or Scarecrow's trick, is to convince people to avoid what scares them. So think of Batman being doused with fear toxin. being in a ball or not chasing after Scarecrow. That's what Scarecrow wants. So the anxiety is the same way. That anxiety wants people to avoid things. It could be any anxiety. It could be for a test. It could be maybe you might have a fear of spiders. So if you listen to Scarecrow or do what the fear toxin tells you to do, which is to run away, avoid it, I'll study for that test tomorrow, I'll worry about that thing I have to do tomorrow. Short term, the avoidance feels really good, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to deal with that scary spider. But long term, what happens is it reinforces the anxiety or makes it worse. So now it's been an extra day I haven't studied for that test, or now I've run away from that spider and my brain thinks I'm still alive because I ran away from that spider. I'm even more afraid of spiders now. So this is the Scarecrow's master plan. So what does Batman do? What did he do in that episode, or what does Batman have to do whenever he faces the Scarecrow?
He pulls himself together and he pushes through.
Exactly. I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He does what he needs to do, despite it's not because he no longer has fear, it's in spite of fear. He puts the fear behind him to push him to motivate him to do what he needs to do. So he might fear, yes, I fear the Scarecrow, but he might fear what happens if I don't face the Scarecrow even more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is a way you can think about anxiety in a different way. Um, but we could do the same thing with another common challenge, which might be depressed mood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you think of depressed mood, what character might come to your mind?
Oh, depression. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who of the villains.
Yeah,
Hmm. I'm thinking of like the ventriloquist. He usually seems pretty depressed, but I don't.
yeah.
Like who were you thinking?
So I hear different answers. I've heard the ventriloquist. I've heard Bane because of the how imposing he is and how hopeless he might make someone feel standing up against him. But I've also often heard the Joker, given how it might not make sense and how it might feel the Joker is always one step ahead and feeling sometimes. Uh, a lack of energy or ability to face how can Batman predict what the Joker is going to do if Joker's unpredictable. So
Mhm.
I've heard those ones. But do you feel more the ventriloquist?
I mean, yeah, I don't know because I don't feel like any of them are specifically depressed unto themselves. But
Hmm.
if you think about like how like what depression can feel like, which is hopeless, nothing matters, or yeah, like you said, unpredictability. I
Hmm.
think there's something there for all of them.
Exactly.
Like I could see Bane as like a metaphor in like he metaphorically breaks your back and you feel like you can't go anywhere or
Mm,
do anything. Uh you feel kind of, yeah, you feel hopeless and you feel helpless. So almost like Bane is so overpowering like depression can be.
exactly. Yeah, that's the answer I often go for myself as depressed mood, depression being like Bane. And Bane, if we go to the Nightfall story, he had his master plan, right? Which was to systematically tire Batman out, isolate him from those he cares about, and wear him down to the point where he can no longer fight back. That's depression's game plan. So depression, its trick is it wants people to not do what their values and goals are. So spending time with other people or doing one's responsibilities or doing things they love. Depression wants them to not do that because when they don't do that, they feel more depressed and the cycle continues. So I guess with Bane, it was more Asbat's Jean Paul Valley who eventually took him down. But Batman has faced him since. But how did Batman beat Bane?
He builds his strength back up.
Mm-hmm.
He outsmarts him. He realizes he can't just meet him on his own terms, so he changes the terms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, through persistence brings him down.
Exactly. One step at a time. And so what this is called doing, even though you don't have the energy, even if you don't have the motivation to do your responsibilities or things you love, doing them anyway. Our fancy term for that in the field of mental health is behavioral activation.
Mm-hmm.
We love to sound fancy, but basically it's even though you don't have a lot of energy to do things, breaking those things into smaller steps that you can do. One of the most helpful things for people who might struggle with depression, research has indicated, is getting out of your bed and making your bed.
Mm-hmm.
For several reasons. One, now you're out of bed and you're less likely to just stay in it. But also, you can see that you made physical change within the world. Your bed is made. You've started your day. Now you have a little more momentum. Now you go take a shower or get ready for the day. Have breakfast, one step at a time. We are also talking.
I just sorry to interrupt, but I find myself doing that all the time, and not in a depressive way. I mean, I certainly have had my moments, but I wouldn't call myself like clinically depressed or anything. But there are times where I feel overwhelmed, because as you can imagine, I'm a very busy person. And a lot of it is of my own doing. I overextend, I overcommit. And so I've just always got a to-do list that is a mile long and it's weighing me down. And when I start to spiral and go, oh my God, I have so much to do. I've got to do this. I got to do this. And I get myself worked up, or I, get my anxiety up because I feel like, God, there's just so much to do and there's not enough time and I can't do it all. It's like, and I swear I did this, I did this yesterday, or 2 days ago. I had like a bunch of stuff I had to do. I was like, you know what, right now, all I have to do is take a shower. I just
Mhm.
have to take a shower, and then I'll take the next step. And so like I take a shower. I'm done with the shower. I'm like, now I just got to get dressed and fix my hair.
Mhm.
And by breaking it down, and you've got to, taking it one step at a time, it relieves that anxiety. And that one little step, you're like, no, that this one thing is very easy. I can do this one next thing. And then once that's done, I'll worry about what happens after that. And I'll be honest, my wife Catherine does the same thing. We're very similar in that way. And so when she starts to spiral, I'm like, all you got to worry about right now is just dropping Harley off at daycare. That's all you got to do
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
Everything else you can worry about later. Right now, or whatever that task might be. But it is easy for us to do that. And then on the other side of that coin, the two-faced coin, when it is a depressing thing where you're like, well, I can't do all this stuff,
Mm.
so why even try? You don't have to. Just do one thing. Just
Exactly.
do one thing and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. What you're describing, Andy, two Batman scenes popped up in my mind. One was the Martha rescue from
Mm-hmm.
Batman v Superman, where if Batman went in there and thinking, "How am I going to take out 30 guys?" probably would have had a hard time taking out 30 guys, but he took one guy at a time. And he had to respond to things that he didn't anticipate, like the grenade. Just one thing at a time. He'll get to Martha, but just one thing, one villain at a time. The other scene that you reminded me of is, I know this is in the Justice League movie. I'm not sure if it's in both Zack Snyder's version and the original version.
I know exactly where you're
Yes.
going, and I thought the same thing.
Yep.
It's in the Joss Whedon version, but it's actually a moment in the Joss Whedon version that I really really love.
Mm. I think we're thinking the same thing. Take it away.
Yeah, it's the moment where the Flash is overwhelmed
Mhm.
because he's never been in a situation like this, and Batman says, "Just save one,
Mhm.
save one." And I love that because that's exactly what he is doing. Is he is bringing his anxiety down, giving him an achievable task, and then
Mhm.
guess what? The Flash does save one, and then he saves another, and then
Yes.
he saves another, and yeah, it's helping make things just feel less overwhelming. And yeah, I love that moment in that movie. I'm
Mhm.
not going to apologize for it.
Oh, me too. I also like the beginning of the Joss Whedon one with the Batman. How it starts with the Batman
Same.
scene.
Yep.
And this speaks to the idea of like there's beauty to be found in so many different things, and I appreciate how you and Brennan and Jamie always say, you can love different things. It's okay. You don't have to be right or wrong. um, there's this is art, and
Mm-hmm.
different people are attracted to different things, and that's why there's like over 200 flavors of ice cream because different people like different things. Why there are menus at restaurants.
See, there
um,
it go. There it
so,
is.
but yes, I love those scenes, and think of this idea every time I watch them.
But
um,
I love what you're saying about, like, sometimes you can metaphorically take a challenge or something that you're dealing with and assign it to a villain.
mhm,
And but I also think there's something to be said for, and you did sort of, you referred to this as well, as like, just what would Batman do, right? Like,
mhm,
if I'm, and I know it's trite, what would Batman do? But like, if you get past that and just think for real of like whatever it is you're dealing with, like, I screwed up at work. Let's
mhm,
say I screwed up at work. I feel terrible. I feel like I'm bad at my job.
mhm,
And it's easy to take a moment like that and spiral and get down on yourself and beat yourself up and everything. But like, what would Batman do? Batman has made a million mistakes out in the field,
mhm,
um, doing whatever, fighting bad guys or whatever. He has made mistakes. What does he do? He learns from it and he doesn't do it again. Like, and by framing up the small everyday challenges we go through and kind of transposing it onto Batman's world, it helps gives us a little perspective.
mhm. Exactly. It gives us kind of a compass of how, maybe not exactly how are we going to figure all this out, but it gives us a direction.
Yeah.
It gives us that guiding light. Yeah, very well said, Dandy. I totally agree with you. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something else I was thinking about, which is the idea of the pitfalls of a hero.
Hmm.
You mentioning focusing on the things that haven't been done, or the feeling focusing on the shortcomings as opposed to the accomplishments. Um, so when we think about Batman, what sticks out in your mind as times where he was beaten by whatever villain he might have been facing at the time?
I mean, yeah, I think about Nightfall and Bane, or I think about Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I think about Joker in The Dark Knight, where, for a big bulk of that movie, the Joker is ahead of him and
Hmm.
has beaten him.
Hmm. Exactly. I it, you naming all those examples, I was like, "Yep, that checks off. That checks off." The idea that I think of, when times when Batman has fallen, I think, from my perspective, it's a result of him not attending to his mental health. So you mentioned Bane first, the Nightfall storyline. So how wasn't Batman attending to his mental health?
Well, I mean, if yeah, in the comics that we're talking,
Mhm,
he is so he is spread so thin
mhm.
trying to stop all of these criminals who have been released, that he stops taking care of himself to the point where he's running on empty, and that's when Bane comes in for the to break him.
Exactly, precisely. He's not engaging in his self-care. He stops sleeping, he stops eating. Alfred's trying to encourage him to take care of himself, um, but he's focusing on the things that haven't been done as compared to the villains he's already brought in, but not recognizing that, hey, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not going to be any help if you're unable to get out there. Um, Another thing about that story, he I'm not sure if Bane, I think this is part of Bane's plan, but he was trying to isolate him.
Hmm.
Batman wasn't accepting as much help from Tim Drake Robin at the time. But think of all the people he could have called for help and support. He could have called, talked to Oracle more, Nightwing, or he could have called the Justice League.
Hmm.
But it was Batman's own pride or feeling like, no, I have to do this on my own. It's not okay to ask for help. That led to him falling. Um, so that's an example. What were the other stories you mentioned?
Well, I mean, if we're still going with Bane, I said The Dark Knight Rises,
Mhm.
where he is not what he was and he
Mhm.
jumps into a situation ill prepared and
Mhm.
with unrealistic expectations
Yes. Mhm.
and ends up in over his head and getting broken all over again.
Mhm. Mm. So kind of a challenge with acceptance that he's not where he's at, and this is where if someone I was talking to was more of a sports fan, when you're a pitcher and you're pitching at age 45, you're going to need to throw more junk or try to pitch in it. You're not going to be throwing those 98-mile-per-hour heaters. You need to pitch in new and different ways and adapt to what your abilities might be then. So his idea of going blow for blow against Bane, maybe he might have been able to do it back in the Dark Knight days, but he has to recognize what his own limitations are and show himself the love and kindness that, yeah, I'm a human being, I'm aging, I haven't been doing this. How can I do this in a smarter, not harder type of way? Exactly.
Yeah,
Mm.
and we're just to go back to the Nightfall example. I'm just sort of translating it to real life. Is one of the things that I run into, and again, Catherine too. The both of us, we commit to so much. There's so much we want to do, and if we ever stop and rest, we feel guilty
Mm.
because we feel like, well, why am I watching a movie when I should be getting this done or I should be doing this? And I know that a lot of people feel that way, is they feel like they feel guilty for resting or taking a break. And if you look at Nightfall, that was Batman's undoing, is that
Exactly.
he refused to take a break, he refused to take care of himself, and then he was of no good, not to Gotham, not to himself, and certainly not to his friends and family. And that is so true for all of us. If you are running on nothing, you're going to be less effective anyway. And so I've seen a meme making the rounds, which is like, taking a day off is self-care. Taking a day off is
Mhm.
productive because we all need it.
Exactly. And I totally agree with you, Andy, that it is a very common human thought to feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. And that might be a reflection, maybe especially in Western culture, of,
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I
productivity.
think it's a very American thing where
Hmm.
we feel guilty for calling in sick. We
Right.
feel guilty. Yeah, we feel guilty for taking a day off. We feel guilty for whatever, for not staying late at work. And that's
Right.
just, it's like baked into our culture, which is so preposterous when we think about it, but we still do it.
Hmm. Exactly. It's not in support of the human needs and the human spirit. Um, and though, if we're the type of people who really value productivity, and productivity is helpful, if it's productivity and what your values and goals are, it might be a helpful reframe to think, well, it's productivity because Batman can face anyone and beat anyone. I know people have made the argument he would easily beat Superman with prep time, right? With prep time.
We've
And
seen the movie. He did
exactly. Right, he
it.
did. He won. He got it. Um, I've heard arguments both ways, and I have to admit my own bias. I think Batman would take Superman, but I hear the point of view, and everyone's entitled to their point of view. But that idea of prep time is necessary. Self care is prep time. Your
Mm.
ability to do the work that you need to do at your job or responsibilities with family, or that is all dependent on the degree to which you take care of yourself. In fact, in the field of mental health, um, self-care is considered an ethical imperative, that we need to take care of ourselves so we can be the best clinicians we can be for the clients that we see. So it's not just, oh, it's nice to take care of yourself. No, you need to, so you can do this really important work that we do. So I'd encourage, and I encourage myself to think about this too. Self care is productive. It helps
Hmm.
us do what we need to do.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, and I'll tell you what I do, and then people can take it with a grain of salt, use it or don't use it. But it helps me because, again, I always have a to-do list, and I always feel guilty if not enough of it's done. But I work, got a full-time job, but I always give myself a homework assignment when I get home.
Mm.
Something on my to-do list. Maybe it's laundry. Maybe it's doing this podcast with you tonight. Tonight you were my homework in a good way.
Hmm.
Um, maybe maybe it's I had to put together a shelf in the baby's room, like stuff like that. Like I make that my homework when I get home from work. And when I do it, then I cannot feel guilty for sitting down and watching something on TV or watching a movie. I'm like, I was productive. I did that thing that I could have procrastinated, or
Mhm.
two things or whatever. But by giving myself that little assignment, I get that little accomplishment when I check it off the list. And then I don't have that. I have much less of that guilt when I can actually sit down and relax a little bit.
Mhm. That's such a great tool and strategy because you can see yourself making progress with the goals that you want to work on, and you're focused on here's what I am doing.
Hmm.
I think of that often with Batman. Of times he's fallen, he was so focused on what he wasn't able to do,
Yeah.
and I forget the exact issue, but I remember Tim Drake mentioning this to him of like, think about everything you have done, the hundreds, thousands of people that you've saved. um, like that's where the meaning is.
Hmm.
There'll always be more, yet
Well,
feel proud of what you've accomplished.
yeah, I mean, let's go back to your favorite Batman movie when I mean, it's a humorous moment when he says it's not even accurate. Batman blows it. I mean, he saved millions of dollars in property damage alone.
Exactly.
But it's true. It's like you can't do everything. You can't stop everything. And so you have to focus on what you did do, right? And so Batman focuses on what he did do. I mean, and again, like to go back to it, but it's fresh in my mind. I think it's that same conversation in Aquaman 2, where he says, we no matter what we do, we cannot save them all. And so you
Mhm.
celebrate the wins and you mourn the losses and you keep going. But because yeah, I think that's an ongoing theme in a lot of superhero stories. Superman has done that where with him and his father and Superman the movie, and then to a different extent from a different angle in Man of Steel of Superman wrestling with, even though you're Superman, you can't save them all. But
Mhm.
what you can do is the best you can do. And you're still making the world a better place by doing it.
So well said. Yeah, that's why I love the Man of Steel movie. It really captures how here's someone with godlike powers, and he can't do it all, and the struggle of that. That's
Hmm.
the most human struggle he goes through of his own limitations. There's always more to do. There's always more work to be done. It's like laundry. There's always going to be laundry.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if you're caught up on laundry, you're wearing clothes, so there's still laundry to do. um, and how can you reflect on, well, these are the things I do feel good about. These are things I am accomplishing. I think this brings up another theme that I often think about with mental health and Batman, which is the idea of the origin story,
Hmm.
um, and how trauma going through life as a human being, trauma, small t, big T, trauma, it's part of our experience and somewhat inevitable.
Hmm.
And most people have heard of post traumatic stress or post traumatic stress disorder. Perhaps less people have heard of the term post traumatic growth and how trauma can give meaning and purpose to life. Batman, one of the many things I love about Batman is he intentionally uses his trauma to try to prevent others from experiencing the same pain, including the citizens of Gotham, including his proteges. Um, I know Jamie really likes this particular moment in the Young Justice animated show from the episode Agendas, where Wonder they're talking
It's
about
it's one of the best Batman moments in any media.
chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that was the moment that I went from liking Young Justice to going, no, this is best of the best, top tier.
Legit. And if anyone ever says, "Why does Batman need a Robin?" or "What's the point of Robin?" it's like, here's the quote. For those who might not know what Andy and I are referring to, so the Justice League are meeting, talking about potential new members, and the idea of Robin comes up, and Wonder Woman expresses that she thinks that Batman is training Robin so he will turn out like him, and Batman responds by saying it's so he wouldn't turn out like him,
Hmm.
which is really that's what mentorship. I know you're a parent. What being a parent, what having meaningful relationships with love are all about. That we can become the people that we needed when we were young, both for other people who might need that love and support that we needed, but also, as we were talking about self care before, becoming the person we needed when we were young
Mm-hmm.
for ourselves, and showing that love and kindness that maybe we didn't experience when we were young, or maybe going through a difficult time, giving that to ourselves. And I think Batman exemplifies that idea. The origin story, he's the wounded healer.
Yeah, I mean, and that is such a great point, because yes, I mean that Batman is giving to Robin what Batman didn't have for himself.
Hmm.
And to go back to the, how we started this conversation about people, so many times when we've seen tragedy or we've had trauma, we think that we're alone in that.
Hmm.
And what Batman is doing for Robin, all of his Robins, is showing them that they are not alone. They are not the first one who has dealt with this. They're not the first one who has felt these feelings. Batman has felt these feelings. And now, many years ahead of where Robin is, he can help him through those so he can be even better than Batman was. And you're right, as parents, we try to do the same. We learn lessons from our parents, the good and the bad,
Hmm.
so we can be better parents to our kids. And then hopefully that cycle will continue, and hopefully more good lessons than bad when it comes to Harley. But it's about setting that example and learning from the past and being that person that they need, that you wish you had had.
Hmm. Exactly. And what a that can be the reframe of the meaning or purpose of the trauma. That yes, what I went through was painful, and it's going to help me be a better parent. It's going to help me be a better friend or brother or sister. It will help me better empathize with people who are going through challenging times. That's what a hero does with trauma. I sometimes think about the difference between characters in comics or any character in media who we might label a hero and one we might label a villain. Their stories are often very similar. They
Mm-hmm.
go through a traumatic loss. Batman's parents were murdered. Joker, his pregnant partner, was killed, and then he was in the acid bath. Similar traumas, or they all go through trauma. It's their choice of how they choose to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to use this as something that defines me, like a ghost that continues to haunt me through my life? Or am I going to use this as an ancestor to inform where I might find meaning and purpose in life, and to show that love and kindness to other people who may have needed it if they're going through the same situation I was? Um, Having said that about heroes and villains, I also love stories of redemption. Harley Quinn being one of them. That I know we just had the holiday season, and I have Wonderful Life, not Wonderful Life. I'm sorry, Christmas Carol in mind.
Mm-hmm.
That there's always opportunity to learn and grow and change, and Joker has had his heroic moments as well. But
Mm-hmm.
the it's what we choose to do with it. And I love how Batman chooses to use his trauma to help others.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important element to Batman that not enough. I don't hear discussed enough.
Hmm.
I have heard Michael Uslan say it, and I've always appreciated when he talks about it. And is the fact that what one of the things that makes Batman so special is he had the worst thing in the world happen to him when he was a child,
Hmm.
and that could have sent him down any number of paths. And what he chose to do was use that horrible, horrible thing to motivate him to help as many other people as he can so they wouldn't go through something that bad themselves.
Hmm.
And so to take that life-changing incident and this horrible tragedy and try to turn it into something good, into a force for the positive, and to make the world a better place and to make Gotham safer so no other kids are going to have to watch their parents die in front of them. I think that's one of the most wonderful things about Batman. And That's why I get a little cranky when certain
Mhm.
stories want to make Batman a little too badass and not as heroic. And
Mhm.
I'm always like, we cannot forget Batman is a hero. He has dedicated his life
Mhm.
to making sure that no one else in Gotham is going to have the tragedy that befell him.
Mhm.
He's a hero. He's an imperfect hero, sure, but sometimes we forget about the very, very noble intentions at the core of who the character is. And that's one of the reasons I love him so much.
Mhm.
Because to your point, we've all had tragic things happen to us to varying degrees, but to a person, that tragedy is a tragedy regardless.
Mhm.
And like you said, it is up to each one of us. How do we react to that? How are we going to let it affect us? And I'm not saying it's going to motivate us all to become the perfect specimen of, of humankind and go out, fighting bad guys. But at the same
Right.
time, it can help you grow. It
Mhm.
can make you more empathetic. It can make you more proactive in helping people. And you don't have to become Batman. But if you can use that to motivate yourself to grow as a person and do just a little good out there, then that tragedy or that negative thing can be turned into a positive one.
Exactly. So well said, Andy. And I'm with you with the feeling of so much emphasis on Batman being dark, and he does have his darkness, as
Of
all heroes
course, yeah.
have that. And I think less focus has been on how he's used the trauma he's gone through to to recapture what he's lost. Of course, he's going to continue to grieve his parents. He won't get his parents back, but through his decision to do what aligns with his values and goals, to bring healing and to help other people, he's found a new family. Like
Yeah.
Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, um, Barbara Gordon, Cassandra Cain. The list goes on and on. Batman, arguably of all the major superheroes in DC, arguably he has the biggest family. uh,
Yeah. And that is the irony, right? His family was taken away from him as a child, and now he has built the biggest family he can.
hmm Exactly.
Which also it's amusing when it's like, no, Batman's a loner. It's like
Mhm.
he likes to think of himself that way, but
Right.
we all know that's not the case.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
love.
so I do love that element of the character as well, of just you know you and I've actually said that to people over the years. I have my Batman tattoo, and some people are just like, Batman, awesome, love it, and other people are like, Batman, I know you like Batman, but why a tattoo? And I was like, it's a great reminder
hmm
that bad things happen to all of us, and it's up to us to choose how we react to them, just the way Batman does.
Exactly. hmm A good reminder about how one wants to live one's life.
Yeah.
Because we're faced with choices every day, and different challenges we're faced with make those choices sometimes harder. And a good question to always ask ourselves is, what would align with my values and goals? And a couple episodes ago, you also brought up the um, happiness lab
Yeah. Hmm.
with the suggestion, and I love this suggestion. What would you tell a friend to do in this situation? Because often we do hold ourselves to a very high expectation. Whereas if a friend was going through the same pain that we're going through, well, of course I would tell the friend to take a sick day, or to talk to other people, or to use your coping skills, show yourself love and kindness. So if you're going through a challenge, I like what we've come up with today. One good question is, what would Batman do? Another question is, what would I tell a friend to do? Um, and another good question is, what aligns with my values and goals, and what's one step I can take? What's the next right thing I can do?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And yeah, that has been one of the most useful tools to me that I learned from the happiness lab, because the irony is we are kinder and more empathetic to our friends than we are to ourselves.
Hmm.
We don't cut ourselves the slack that we cut the people we love. So if your spouse or your best friend or a coworker that you're really fond of, or who your parents, whoever, if they were going through this thing, whatever this thing is, you would be empathetic. You would tell them to take care of themselves. You would show them kindness. You would show them understanding. You would cut them all the slack in the world to try and help them through that rough patch. But when you're going through it, no, you're not doing any of that for yourself. And so by pulling yourself out of that equation and talking to yourself in the third person, I know as weird as that sounds, and talking to yourself as you would a friend, it makes a huge difference, and it gives you a lot of perspective, and back to thinking about, hey, if this were an obstacle Batman were to face, what would he do? What would
Hmm.
Batman do? How would
Hmm.
he tackle this problem? It's the same way of how would I tell a friend to tackle this problem? And that perspective can lower your anxiety and make things feel a little more manageable and remind you to take it one step at a time.
Exactly. And you mentioning what would Batman do? How would he work through this? That brings me to this one last thing I was hoping we might talk about, which is, and we kind of talked about it already, but the idea of how Batman, to face any challenge faces, needs his training, needs his prep time, and also needs the gadgets of a hero.
Hmm.
So Batman, as we agree, Batman could take down anyone with the right prep time, with the right planning. So for that, we've talked about that as self care, making sure that we get what we need as human beings physically, what our bodies need, emotionally, relationally, what our hearts need, and spiritually. Maybe not necessarily religious, it could be, but what sorts of things give us a sense of awe or connection of something larger than ourselves? Could be nature, could be music, could be comic books. How can we connect to something that makes us feel connected? So the physical, 8 hours of sleep, doing the best we can. Things come up, and we have to adjust. But trying to get that sleep, our brains need sleep to function. It's when we transfer short term memory into long term memory. So if you're a student, if you're at a job or career where you need to retain things, sleep is so important. It's not just something that's nice to do, it's critical for you to do the job you need to do. Trying to get proper exercise. Research has actually shown that exercise is more effective at treating depressed mood or depression than antidepressant medications are. So, making sure you make time for moderate exercise, get outside, remind yourself the world is bigger. Exercise can look different for different people. Could be going for a walk, could be shooting hoops, could be going bowling, could be yoga. Um, so, finding time for that, making sure you're eating healthy. I'm reminded of what we are talking about with Nightfall. Batman wasn't doing these things.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and so that's the physical, but the emotional, relational. Are you connected to your support group? Are you talking to others for support? Are you doing things you love with people you love? Are you listening to Holy BatCast? Are you watching the movies you love? Um, so we might think of those things as Batman needs his prep time, Batman needs to train and to do his research. We need that as human beings to function and to live meaningful, productive lives.
And you're right, and it's those. Batman's got his batarang and his grapple
Hmm.
gun
Hmm.
and all of his gadgets, and but we have our own tools that we can use to take care of ourselves. And like you said, some of that is just force yourself to go to bed a little early
Hmm.
tonight. Get the rest. You do need it. We all need it. Um, and
Exactly.
and I'm really bad at that, and I admit it. But like you said, a 15-minute walk can make all the difference in the world. And at that point, it's not even about like losing weight or whatever. It's like, but getting out, moving around a little bit. It also helps with, just being in the moment. Oh my God, what's the term that they use? Um,
Mindfulness.
mindfulness. Um, because that also like goes a long way where like I can be outside and I can just notice the sun setting and feel the breeze and like just listening to the trees rustle, and it's like just allow yourself to like soak in the moment and have that mindfulness where you can let everything else just sit sit outside your brain for just a couple of minutes, and it
Mm.
it makes a difference, and it can be very centering. So there are all these little tools, and they could work differently for all of us, and you won't know until you try, but these are our tools. This is our
Mhm.
prep time, to your point, where then tomorrow, when you've got to do the things you got to do, when you got to go out into Gotham and stop some
Mhm.
bad guys, or maybe you just have to go to work and have a lot of meetings, whatever it is, these are going to help you with those. So I also love what you said about the support system.
Mhm.
um, you know, I'll tell you, one of the best classes I ever took was my psychology class in college. And I remember more things that professor said than I think I remember of any teachers I've ever had in my life.
Mm.
He was just great. And one of the things he said was, he said, joy shared is doubled
Mm.
and grief shared is halved.
Mm.
And so when something good happens, you want to share it with as many people as you can, because that just makes the joy greater. And if you're going through a tough time, you also need to share that, because then you're not carrying that load on your own.
Mhm.
So like with Catherine, if I've got bad news, she's the first one I call, because I need that support in that moment with that bad news.
Mhm.
And it helps. It makes you feel a little bit better, because you're not in it alone.
Mm.
And everybody needs that.
Exactly. It's amazing. It sounds like that professor was an Alfred in your life, Andy.
He was. He was. What's funny is I don't think he would remember me, because it was a huge
Yeah.
college class, but he
Mhm.
just he threw out so many of those just little tidbits, little nuggets that really stayed with me.
Yeah.
And now it's been, God, 25 years since I took that class, but things like that, and I'm like, God, he knew what he was talking about, because the longer you live, the more you run into stuff, and it comes back, and you're like, damn it, he knew what he was talking about it.
Mhm.
Because I remember
Mhm.
another thing he said, grief is like a record, and maybe it's an old reference now, but a record, well, they're back again, vinyl are back. He's like, it's a record that you have to play over and over and over again until it no longer makes any sound,
Mhm.
and it takes forever.
Mhm.
And I was like, huh, but it's so true, like, because it is such a slow process, but that's just the way it is, and there's no shortcut.
Right. Yeah. With grief, helpful reframe that I've heard in my life that's been helpful for me is the idea that grief is a reflection of unexpressed love. And
Hmm.
whoever you might have lost in your life, who you might be grieving, even if you had 1,000 years with them, it still wouldn't have been enough time for you to express all the love you have in your heart for them. So, in that way, grief is, yes, painful, and it's also a beautiful thing, a reflection of the love you had for them and the love they have for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Another thing you bring up, Andy, um, that we were talking about superheroes. Another superhero I often think about, and you mentioning records, so retro. So a retro superhero I think of is Mr. Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
He didn't have a red cape, but he had a red sweater. But he would often encourage people to take time to think about all the people in your life who loved you into being, who showed you love or showed you support, gave you a chance, taught you how to read, taught you that you're worthy of being loved. And he'd encourage people to take a moment to think about all those people. And maybe in the spirit of Mr. Fred Rogers, maybe we take just 20 seconds to think about all those people who showed us love and kindness, your professor, family members, partners, friends, teachers who loved you into being.
You're killing me here, Rob. This is not the time. Oh,
Mm.
I'm always, that how the last year has been, and whew,
Mhm.
having lost my own parents, feeling a little too much like Batman these days.
I often think, Andy, I appreciate your vulnerability, and it's one of the things I love about your show is how you share yourself, and you share and you normalize through that for everything everyone else who's listening to your show is feeling. We appreciate you sharing your humanity. I often think about tears or crying. That's the healing waters flowing. It's a source of it's a sign of courage to share that with another person. It's hard being a human being.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, it is it is good advice, and I think that on the flip side of that is, I mean, I love that exercise, and I was that I think it was a documentary about Mr. Rogers where they talked about that, right?
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
so.
Yep. And with Tom Hanks as well.
Yeah, and A
Mhm.
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I watched those as like a double feature. It was quite a party night at, at my house that night. Um, but I think along those same lines, I think it's just as meaningful to take a moment and acknowledge the people you love.
Mhm.
You know, like the and how much you appreciate them.
Mhm.
I think that is just as effective too, because it's not just about receiving; about giving.
Mm, exactly, and you were on the same wavelength because I often encourage folks to engage in that exercise that Mr. Rogers encouraged us to do, and I also encourage maybe taking another step. Think about all the people that you have helped in your life, that you showed love and kindness to, that you expressed to them that they are worthy of being given them a chance, given them hope. Maybe it's through a card, maybe it's through just a hug. Think of the tremendous impact, just like Batman has had on Gotham City. Think of the tremendous impact that you have made in the lives of your loved ones or other people.
Yeah, I mean, and it's I mean, Christmas isn't that long ago, but it is, it's not just about receiving; it's about the giving. And I do think about that, especially having said goodbye to to my parents this past year. Of like, did I tell them enough? Did I make them feel loved? That kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
and you do what you can, and you hope, but if anything, it also teaches you, like, you have to make sure that the people who are still here know how much you appreciate and care for them. And
Mhm.
so I always try to do that as well. And then, to your point, to go back to Batman, he's not one who talks about his feelings a lot, but I always love it in any story where he shows how much he loves and cares for the Bat family,
Mhm.
Alfred and Dick and Tim and Barbara and Commissioner Gordon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is his family, and he might not say it, but he shows that he loves them. And I think that's an important element of the character that we can all learn from. My dad was like that. God, I don't even remember my dad ever saying I love you, but
Mhm.
he showed me,
Exactly. Mhm.
and it was very much like Batman in that way.
Mhm. Mhm. Different people have different love languages or
Yeah.
different ways of showing that they care and that they love. And some people's love language is in words, and others it's in physical touch, and others it's gift giving or there as Mr. Rogers used to say, there are many ways to say I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
another exercise I also encourage people to do, and we've talked about this with Batman today too, which is as you think about the people who loved you into existence, how can you honor them or perhaps their memory by showing that same love and kindness to yourself? What can you do to become that person that they were for you?
Hmm.
As Batman became his father to the proteges, or as Batman became for them as what Alfred was for him. Alfred was his dad. Like how can you show that to others and to yourself in the spirit of those who gave it to you?
Yeah. No, that's very true. And my as you were talking about the people who loved you, like my mind went to my grandma Ruth, and
Mhm.
she's been gone since 2016, but she used to always, whenever she was driving the car and I was in the passenger seat, she would like smack my leg, like she would smack my leg.
Mhm.
And she's like, you know what that is? That's love. And
Oh,
and I do that. I do that to Catherine, and I do that to other people because of her. And so it's like trying to, yeah, like pay that love forward.
mhm, mhm.
So I mean, gosh, we've hit a lot of things, and damn it, you got me to cry. I was gonna not do that, but like I said on the Aquaman review, I'm I'm very easy to make cry these days after the year that I've had. So that's, that's not going anywhere. But um, a lot of conversation and a lot of different ideas of how we can use Batman's example and his stories to help inspire us and guide us as we go through our own challenges and our own stories. But I feel like you kind of did it a few minutes ago, but with people walking away, let's summarize just some things, that some small things, tiny baby steps that they can do that hopefully will make their lives just a little bit better, or help them feel a little more comfortable or a little more at peace as they face their own challenges.
Sounds good. I love how you put it, Andy, which is what would Batman do? So reminding yourself that about the hero's journey, that a part of life is going through challenges, and uh, the reason we are drawn to Batman and the stories and the challenges he faces because we relate to that idea. That's our experience as human beings. So how can you do respond to those challenges in ways that align with what your values and goals are, despite feeling fear, despite feeling grief, despite feeling sadness or feeling overwhelmed? How can you take that next step, the next right thing? And if that step feels too big, make it a smaller step, one step at a time. Then there's externalizing the problem. So thinking about challenges you face as potential foils or villains. Okay, if I'm going through anxiety, this is just like the Scarecrow. What would Batman do? Well, Batman wouldn't give in to the anxiety. He would do what he knows is going to be helpful, um, facing what he's fearful of or anxious anyway. We call that, we love our fancy terms in the field of mental health. That one is called exposure and response prevention, teaching your brain and body that you're safe, that this is okay. That there's really not, from this fear toxin, there's really not spiders crawling all over you. Um, that you're safe and taking the next right step. Um, Also, adding to that, sometimes it's about changing your relationship with what you're struggling with, changing the way you think about it. Maybe turning Harley Quinn, maybe Harley Quinn's anxiety, turning her in from villain to she's a hero now, in the comic books, that she uses her trauma now to fight for good. So externalizing the problem, thinking about it in different ways. um, we also talked about the idea of the pitfalls of the hero. When Batman has fallen, it's because he wasn't attending to his mental health. He wasn't taking care of himself with his sleep or eating. He wasn't talking to his supports. We also talked about the idea of the origin story and how our trauma that we go through as human beings can be used to give meaning and purpose to our lives, to help others and ourselves. Um, and we also talked about the idea of self care, coping skills being like training, prep time, and gadgets of a hero. You mentioned the utility belt before. Andy, I'm so impressed with you with your utility belt of quotes that just like that. They flow off naturally. But the gadgets of hero, you might think of going through challenging times. You need your utility belt. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, pull out your batarang, and maybe that's deep breathing. If you're having
Mhm.
another challenge and you need your grapple gun, maybe that's mindfulness or progressive muscle relaxation, or maybe another thing happens, you need the bat rope. Maybe that is talking to a friend or engaging in art or going for a walk, doing the things that you need to take care of yourself. So I think summarizing it though, Andy, I think you put it so well. What would Batman do?
I mean, and yeah, and I mean, I think that there's so much good to glean from everything that we talked about. But for the folks listening at home or at work or on the drive or whatever, this all could be overwhelming. And so, I totally get that, and we don't expect you to do and try every single one of these things, but hopefully it gives you food for thought. And if all else fails, just try one thing. Just try one. Just save one and see if it helps. And this episode will always be in their feeds. You can go back to it if you need more ideas. But you'll remember little bits here and there, and that's okay. But just try one thing, because there is no fix all, there is no cure all. We're all human. We are all going through these trials and tribulations every single day of our lives. And we have wins and we have losses and we have things that stress us out and we have things that make us excited, and all of the above. It's something that we all share in common as humans on this planet. And so we love these stories because they inspire us and they entertain us, but to be able to pull some wisdom from them and apply them to our own lives, I think is a pretty magical thing. So if you just pick one and give it a try, and hopefully that'll make things just a little bit easier, because sometimes a little bit's enough. It's not, everything's not going to be perfect, but it's these little coping mechanisms or these little nuggets of wisdom. They all start to add up, and it really does help. So,
Mhm.
Rob, this has been great, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, and it's even great reminders for me, because I don't do what you do for a living. I certainly take an interest in it, because I think that it's just so important for all of us. We all want to put forth this veneer that everything is great, but we're all going through something, like you said at the beginning, and these little tips and ideas and techniques can just help us all get through those rough patches a little bit easier, and then we'll come out on the other side stronger and smarter and ready for the next one.
So well said, Andy. And as we said before, important to recognize that you're worth those things, giving those things to yourself, just as you would encourage a friend or a loved one to do. That
Yeah.
you are worth it and you are enough.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
let Batman do more than just entertain you. Let him inspire you. And Rob, thank you for being the Rosetta Stone from Batman to actual real world things that we all could use to help our own mental health as we move forward.
Thank you, Andy. I love that. The Rosetta Stone. One other possible Rosetta Stone that could be helpful that I often recommend clients to, if they're interested in this idea of using Batman as a metaphor for working on mental health. There's a really wonderful graphic novel written by Paul Dini, who, of course, we know from Batman the Animated Series. It's called The Dark Knight, Night with Night. But it's a really wonderful, powerful graphic novel that explores the trauma that Paul Dini went through, um, going through an assault,
Hmm.
and it explores how he used Batman and Batman characters to process his pain and his grieving and his fear, and it shows his healing process over time. It's really wonderful, powerful. I do want to warn that it does have some graphic images in it, so perhaps might not be the most appropriate for children, and for those who might feel that they might be triggered by those images. But it's certainly a wonderful, powerful example of how this one human being who we all admire as Batman fans went through this challenging time and how he worked through it one step at a time with Batman by his side.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And that brings up, like, for folks who are listening, and again, hopefully this conversation has given you some ideas, but um don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, if you're really having a hard time, there is no shame in asking for help, whether that be from a friend or loved one or professional help from a therapist. And like I said earlier, therapy was amazing. And I know there's still this stigma, and I'm glad that it seems like it's going away to some extent, because therapy is awesome. It really can help, and don't be afraid to do it. Um, and there are other resources available to you. You know, again, there's friends and colleagues. There are books. I've recommended the Happiness Lab because
Mhm.
you know that gives you just little usable things to help you put things into perspective. And Rob, what other recommendations do you have for folks who might continue to be dealing with mental health challenges?
Absolutely. So, if you might be interested in counseling or therapy for yourself, if you're living in, I'll speak to the US. So, you might consider reaching out to your health insurance if you have health insurance to see what providers might be covered in your area. Another way to go about it is using psychologytoday.com. Uh, psychologytoday.com has a counselor search feature that you can use and include your health insurance or what type of therapist you're looking for. It has a very advanced search feature, and you can see what counselors might be in your area. You can also look up, just bring out Google and look up community mental health centers in your area, in your catchment area. That might be especially helpful if finances are a challenge. So, looking up community mental health providers in my area. If you're going through a psychological emergency, everywhere in the US now, just dialing the three numbers 988 goes to the national hotline for people who might be experiencing a crisis at that time. Trained mental health providers who can listen and be there and suggest things that could be helpful. Of course, if it's a life threatening emergency, if it's immediate, of course, 911. But those are other resources to be aware of.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And again, Rob, thank you for all your great insight and advice. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you, Andy.
But you're going to stick around. We're going to answer some emails. But before we do that, I also have to give a little mention of our other friends over at Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the very handy, somewhat tasty little energy shot that is all natural and gives you just a little extra boost of energy, but it doesn't have like the chemically taste because it's all natural stuff in there. It's very small, it's easy to drink, and I still use it in the mornings, every morning. I use it along with my morning coffee, but it's also a great alternative to coffee, whether that be in the morning or in the afternoon when you need that extra little jolt. So Magic Mind, they've been kind enough to send me some of them, and I've really enjoyed them. I'd never really taken energy shots before. That was just never my thing, but these I really like, and I don't feel bad about taking them because it's just natural ingredients. But they do seem to help, and they really help me focus when I'm getting to work in the morning and I gotta be ready to go and all those meetings and everything. So if you want to check out Magic Mind, go to magicmind.com/Jan BatCast for January, Jan BatCast. And if you're going to make a purchase, you can do that. Just use the promo code BatCast20. Or they also are in Sprouts Markets. So if you have a Sprouts Market near you, keep an eye out for Magic Mind, and then you can just sample it. Just buy a couple, so that way you don't have to commit to a big old thing. And see how you like it. Again, I've really been happy with Magic Mind, and so give it a shot if that's something that you think could help you as well. So again, that website is magicmind.com/Jan BatCast, and the promo code is BatCast20. So let's shake off some of the heavy vibes, even though it was all very good and felt very therapeutic, and I'm very happy with it. But let's do some random stuff and check in with you, fine feathered finks, and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Derek. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all Master Wayne.
Oh, Okay, first email here is from Alec Chapman. It says, "Hey, Bat Family. Sorry if this email is long. I'm writing on December 13th, my 17th birthday. So this one's been in the mailbox for a minute. I want to ask a question and give some unqualified advice. My question is, what is your Batman status quo? Like when Batman is in his prime, what does his world look like? Who's Robin? Which Bat family members are in the picture? My unqualified advice comes with an unnecessary explanation, so bear with me. I think of my life as a hurricane, a simile that sounds more negative than it is in the sense that on the outside, it's constantly changing and unpredictable. Meanwhile, on the inside is a small pocket where things are calm. And these pockets are things that don't change, like music, movies, and hobbies. The point I'm making is that in my life, you guys are my constants, my unchanging variables. Whenever life gets hard, or as hard as it can get for me, I can turn to you guys for comfort. The moral of my long winded story is to hang on to your constants and remember that you'll be okay. Tough times don't last, but tough people do, is a song lyric that I like to think about. Anywho, enough of me. I just wanted to remind you guys and anyone listening that they aren't alone and that you only see the light shine in dark times. P.S. Sorry for the long email, Alec. Wow, I didn't even plan this, Rob, I swear. But it's
serendipitous.
See, look at that. I think Alec is just on the same wavelength, especially a couple weeks ago in the midst of December. So, Alec, thank you for the message, and I hope you had a very happy birthday. Thanks for taking a few minutes on your birthday to write us on Holy BatCast. That's awesome. And I definitely appreciate the advice and insight. It actually dovetails nicely with our conversation about finding those constants, those little things that don't change that keep you grounded, whatever that might be, like a podcast or a song or an album or a movie or a person, whatever. Those constants really can help us while the hurricane is raging in certain points in our life. So that's actually a great insight, and I'm glad you shared it, and it worked out well. But your question, Alec, is about what would our Batman status quo be? So, yeah, what does Batman's world look like? How old is he? Who's his Robin, et cetera, et cetera. Rob, what's your perfect Batman status quo?
That was a wonderful question. And I just want to say, Alec, happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for that wonderful expression. I do the same thing. I turn to Holy BatCast for comfort, consistency, and it speaks to what we were talking about before, Andy, of the gift that you and Jamie and Brendan give by your time, and you create connection. There's an old saying in mental health that the opposite of mental illness is connection. So you create this community. It's so much more than quote unquote just a podcast. So I'm right there with you, Alec, and I couldn't agree more. And again, happy birthday. Such a great question. Like, what is the Batman status quo? Some of these things, I think I'm going to borrow from different media and different timelines. So Robin was asked about. My favorite Robin is Tim Drake. That's the one I grew up with. I love how he's more cerebral, and he's not the best fighter, but he's very intelligent, and he thinks about things in creative ways. So I would say he's Robin. Batman's driving around the '89 Batmobile, but I think of Batman maybe in his maybe early to mid 30s. I think he's certainly well established. In my mind, he's not the urban legend. Like, Gotham knows he's there, the world knows he's there. I think in terms of costume, blue and gray, but dark blue and gray.
All right, fair enough.
Yep. So best of both worlds, perhaps. But I think he's certainly met most, if not all, of his major villains. Yet he's still learning. He's still growing. He's not Dark Knight Returns, like he's seen it all type of thing. He is still learning and growing, but I don't think has met Damian Wayne yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we are very aligned on this. Yeah, I feel like for me, Like Batman is like late 30s. Probably, 38, 39. Dick Grayson is already Nightwing and he's like 24, 25. And Tim Drake is Robin and he's like 16 or 17. And then Barbara Gordon is in there too. She probably splits the difference between Dick and Tim, so she's probably 20, 21. And then like it's a world where it's a Gotham where he has met his rogues gallery. He and the Joker have already locked horns multiple times over the years, and the Joker is at large. He's definitely in the awesome 89 Batmobile, I agree. But the rogues gallery is out there. And yeah, Batman is old enough to give guidance and tutelage to the Bat family. But he's not too old yet. We're not talking Dark Knight Returns Batman yet. But yeah, I guess it would be that. He and Commissioner Gordon are already best friends. Alfred is still around. I don't like this newfangled era where there's no Alfred. I'm not a big fan of that. So yeah, I guess that's my Batman status quo. The Batcave is already tricked out, and fully functional. So it's sort of like the mid-career in his prime Batman, but where there's already a family, just not like 50 of them.
Nice, love it. With your version, is Barbara Gordon Batgirl or Oracle?
She's Batgirl. Yeah, I think she's Batgirl. Because for me, like, the core Bat family is Nightwing, Batgirl, Tim Drake, Robin. Anything else is gravy, but those three to me feel like the core of the Bat family. All right, next message is from Matt Carey. It says, "Hey guys, it's been a bit and I'm catching up on some recent episodes, so this email might be all over the place. First of all, Andy, I'm sorry to hear about your mother. My condolences, but thank you for sharing your memories of her, and I hope your whole family was able to share good memories at her celebration. Going back to your conversation about Superman Legacy, I think that you and Jamie have forgotten something. One thing that I want to hear more than see is a fantastic score. John Williams' score for Superman, the movie, is still one of the best soundtracks ever, and the Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL soundtrack for Man of Steel is also awesome. So Superman Legacy should have an equally epic soundtrack. And a suggestion, I recently discovered a DC Spotify podcast called Riddler Secrets in the Dark. This seems right up your alley. It's told from the Riddler's point of view, and it also has King Tut and Egghead in it. I didn't realize when I found it that it's number 3 in the series. The first was Batman Unburied, and then Harley Quinn and the Joker's Sound Mind. At 20 minutes per episode, they're a great listen to while working or doing chores, and I think they'd be great to review on the show. It's a good story and a great take on the Riddler. Keeping this short, love all that you guys do. Always awesome to hear you talk about all things Batman and DC. Matt Carey." All right. Thank you, Matt. And thank you for catching up. Thank you for the kind words about my mother. Her celebration went very well. I ended up doing the whole eulogy, which was very good, but also a lot. But I had seen too many crappy eulogies that I was not going to let my mom go out like that. So I took matters into my own hands. I did it myself. As for the Superman Legacy score, 100% agree. It's tough to follow up John Williams and the Hans Zimmer. Both of them are so good. But I have faith that James Gunn will find a composer who is up to the task, because you're right. Right there with Superman's got to be an awesome score. And then I have not listened to the Riddler podcast, but I appreciate the heads up. I honestly, there are quite a few Batman podcasts out there, and I've listened to some, but they just haven't grabbed me. So I might have to give this one a shot. Rob, any thoughts on especially on the podcast or Superman Legacy?
Yeah, great question, Matt. I wish I knew more about composers to suggest one that I think could be really good. Generally my knowledge of composers is limited to Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, and John Williams. So,
well, they are the biggies.
Right?
That's a totally fair list, by the way.
I've recently been watching or rewatching the Tales from the Crypt TV show. And I was surprised to learn, and I guess not. I was surprised but not shocked that Danny Elfman composed that theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible, and it makes so much sense. But who would be a good composer? Um, I fully trust that they will find someone who can. There's no recreating the John Williams. Sometimes, and maybe this is helpful to share with people as well. Sometimes, if I really need to pump myself up to do something that's going to be challenging, or to give myself some courage, I throw on a little Danny Elfman and John Williams, the Batman '89 theme or the Superman theme, to remind myself that I'm going to show courage here and do what I need to get done. So I hope whatever it is, it will be like that. That same sort of spirit, triumphant, um, like inspiring of hope. Um, so looking forward to what it will be. I'm really looking forward to Superman Legacy. Um, kind of bummed out that we have a change of the guard. Um, with Henry Cavill no longer being Superman. But I think this is something that often comes up. I'm also a Doctor Who fan,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, and there's a cycle with Doctor Who fans. So there's a current Doctor, and then you hear that Doctor's leaving, and you're grieving that, and then there's a new Doctor, and oh, I don't like this Doctor. They're not the same. Oh, I do kind of like this Doctor. Oh, I love this Doctor. Oh no, they're leaving, and the cycle repeats itself.
Hmm.
So I love the point how you made before, Andy, in past episodes of there'll always be Henry Cavill Superman movies. There'll always be Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and can return to that. So I'm looking forward to what the next step will be. Um, I think we live in an age, we're in the golden age of geeks, and we're what a blessing it is to have this new content, and to see what it brings.
I mean, and to that point, we've had so many Batmen over the years, and loving Christian Bale does not make me love Michael Keaton any less.
Mhm.
And loving Ben Affleck doesn't make me love Christian Bale any less. There's room in my heart for many Batmen, and there's room in my heart for many Supermen.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
All right, next message is from Benjamin. It says, "Hey, Batcasters, I hope your cheerathon is cheery." Again, some of these are from December, so it's okay. He says, "I'm seeing Die Hard in theaters tomorrow, and I can't wait. For my question, with technology like the volume and advancement of LED walls, do you think such tech may bring us closer to Batman the Animated Series meets Sin City in a movie? I know Conroy isn't around, but at a certain point, I'm sure some version of BTAS will be revisited in some way without him, whether we like it or not. And if not Batman the Animated Series, which animated Batman project would you like to see come to life on the level of Sin City, especially now that the possibilities are endless? Thanks for the Bat Pod, as always, Benjamin." Thanks, Benjamin. Always good to hear from you. So I mean, obviously, it won't be Batman the Animated Series. It sounds like you're talking about a live action movie in the style of Batman the Animated Series. That's what I'm getting from this. And I think that's absolutely possible. I certainly think the technology could support it. And I would love to see it. I mean, I think a lot of us have been saying for years, like, we would love to see a movie through the lens of Batman the Animated Series. So I don't know if I'm putting money on that that's what we will get, but that is certainly what we could get if someone wanted to do it. What do you think, Rob?
Great question, and what a clever idea of recreating Batman the Animated Series live action through the what's the movie? It's forgetting me. Sorry,
Sin City?
Sin City. Yeah, because Batman the Animated Series, its background was the black construction paper,
Mm-hmm.
and how like Sin City, it's surrounded by darkness. So I think that would work really well. Uh, it's interesting. This question kind of relates to the previous question of what's the quintessential Batman, or like what's the status quo, and with some minor tweaks, I think Batman the Animated Series is it.
Yeah.
It's there's a reason why eventually my VHS tapes no longer worked with Batman the Animated Series. So yeah, I think there's so many different artistic, creative ways um, to explore Batman and his mythology, and um, different ones speak to different people. Again, different flavors of ice cream. So it, I think that's a wonderful idea. Very creative.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be all for it. So I love it. I just hope someone would want to do it. Next message is from Mike Ortego. It says, the reason I'm writing is, do you think that Batman and Robin, the 1997 movie, would be more loved and forgiven if it were set at Christmas time? Hear me out. It has Mr. Freeze, so there's a winter theme already, and people tend to be more forgiving of things that are campy when it's at Christmas. They already did it in Batman Returns, so I can see why they didn't go in that direction, but Merry Little Batman has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 97%. And I enjoyed Merry Little Batman, but I think having it set during Christmas only helped me enjoy it more. Anyway, thanks for all that you guys do, and I hope you and your loved ones have a very Merry Christmas and an even happier New Year. God bless, Mike in Louisiana. Thanks, Mike, and always good to hear from you, and I hope you're doing well, and I hope you also had a very happy holiday. So what do you think, Rob? Do you think Batman and Robin would be better considered if it was a Christmas movie?
I love the connection with the theme of ice and snow and the holidays. I wonder if maybe that's the reason they didn't go with that, because it was done in Batman Returns. Um, yeah, I have such vivid memories of Batman and Robin going to see in the theater. My I remember my parents let me take the day off from school when it came out, and I was first in line at our local movie theater. Um, to see it. And I remember showing up hours early to be first in line. And as the hours ticked by, I was surprised no one else is lining up here. What's going on? And I remember watching it, and there's so many things I liked about it. Yet in my mind, comparing it to the ones that came before, I left thinking, I'm not sure. I'd have to watch it again, but I'm not sure if that one was as good. It has, of course, grown on me over time, and I can now love it for what it is. It is fun. It is more of Batman 66 in live action movie with special effects form. So, yeah, the idea though of having it set in Christmas, yeah, I'd be all for it. I wonder, has that been done, Mr. Freeze, at the holiday time?
The only thing I really remember is the comic version of Holiday Nights had a Mr. Freeze story in it. And it was awesome. And I'm so sad that it wasn't in the animated version. But I think you're right. And I think Mike is right, is they might have been tempted, but because Batman Returns was set at Christmas, it was like they couldn't. But I would have loved it. I think it would have been great. They certainly have the little nod to Christmas in there with the Snow Miser. And now, it's what, 27 years old? Is that right? 27 years old, Batman and Robin? It's been a long time. And so I would love to see a new Batman movie starring Mr. Freeze at Christmas, because yeah, it's just natural. It makes sense. I would love that. So it's not too late for whoever wants to do it. And I also love an excuse to watch a Batman movie at Christmas anyway.
All for it.
Yep. All right, next email here is from Joshua Gonzalez. It says, hey, it's Josh. Knowing your love for soundtrack music, I was wondering if you had heard the score for the Batman Arkham games. The main theme is pretty catchy, if you ask me. For Arkham City, there was a soundtrack containing music by various artists. There are three in particular that live rent-free in my mind. Deranged by Coheed and Cambria, Mercenary by Panic at the Disco, and Drown in You by Daughtry. Give them a listen, especially Deranged. It really expresses the Joker's need for staying as Batman's permanent nemesis. Thanks for reading, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. I will be honest, I haven't really heard, I'm sure I've heard them, the Arkham's theme. I don't remember it, so I'd have to go back and listen to the actual theme. But the companion album with all the artists, because a few months ago, me and Brendan did the Batman mixtape episode where we picked pop songs. Because of that, some listeners sent me some of these tracks from the Arkham City album. And I definitely put the Daughtry and Panic at the Disco ones on my Batman playlist. But now I got to go back and listen to the Deranged one because I don't know if I heard that one. But yes, this was brought to my attention because of that mixtape episode, which we had so much fun doing. And we can do a part 2. We left enough off of it. But now you got to make me go listen to the Coheed and Cambria one. I don't know, Rob, I don't know if you're familiar with how familiar you are with the Arkham stuff.
I know the music because I have played all the games except Arkham Knight. So I love those games. If I would love to play them again with the time, and I'd love to play Arkham Knight. But I've played Arkham, Arkham City, Arkham Origins, and I have the theme in my mind. I think it's really strong, and I remember humming it as I'm doing a combo to try to pass 50. But gosh, what an opportunity to be Ben Affleck, Batman from Batman v Superman, doing that combo of taking down a group of villains. It's incredible. Great games. I've heard good things about Arkham Knight. I just don't have a PlayStation 5, so I have my last system is a PS3. So
same. I mean, I have a Switch now, but yeah, for PlayStation, the last one I had was a 3. And they just released the Arkham trilogy for Switch, but I'd heard it was really bad. And so I was going to pick it up, but I saw some reviews saying that like they did a really bad job translating them, which makes me sad.
That's too bad.
But I've listened to the album. I need to listen to the theme. So I appreciate the homework. There are some emails left, but I'm going to go ahead and save those for next time, just in the interest of time. So thank you to everybody who wrote in. We love the questions. We love hearing from y'all. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. But that is where we're going to wrap up this very unique episode of Holy BatCast. And I hope you did enjoy the conversation because I know I did. So, Rob, thank you so much for taking time out of your life and spending a couple hours this evening chatting Batman with me, chatting mental health. And I really had a good time and I'm glad we did this.
I'm so glad to hear that, Andy. I had an incredible time. It's a dream come true to be a part of something that's been a big part of my life the past years. So thank you so much for having me again. Thank you to my wife, Laura, for making this happen. And I just encourage everyone to please take good care of yourself and each other. And what would Batman do?
Absolutely. And big shout out to Laura. Thank you. You're awesome. Take good care of Rob. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet both of you. But that will do it. Thank you for joining us. Please do subscribe or follow Holy BatCast wherever you get your podcasts. Something else you can do to support us that doesn't cost you a penny is to just rate and review us wherever you get your shows. We love that. So a nice rating goes a long way. So please and thank you. Again, visit holybatcast.com and find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, that email address again is holybatcast at rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. You can go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with Batscaped as a promo code. Or you can go to magicmind.com/JanBatcast and get a discount there with BatCast20. So that will do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Rob, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And as Rob said, please be kind to yourself and be kind to others, just like Batman. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
I have to say, Andy, when you said that, I had that theme play in my head.
I know. It's just it just magically pops in, but